Well, we could talk about Toy Story 3 and why it's a brilliant film, but let's talk song. In this video, I'm going to take a look at Tina Turner's wonderful We Don't Need Another Hero, in brackets Thunderdome. That's officially part of the title. In this video, we are going to talk about reharmonization techniques that you can use to spice up lengthy parts. We are also going to look at the importance of harmonic rhythm in pop music, and we are going to look at a modulation fest. That is the primary bridge of Tina Turner's We Don't Need Another Hero. So let's get started.
We are the children, the last generation.
The first thing that we are going to look at is the different chord progressions used in the different sections of the song, and we are going to pay special attention to Reharm techniques. Let's look at intro and verse first. The intro and verse chords are B, F sharp, B and F sharp, repeat. Then we move to E, F sharp, and C sharp, all minor chords. This is the 1. We are clearly in the key of B major. The 5, the 1, the 5, 4, 5, and the Foo Fighters chord, a 2 major chord. This is chord progression number 1. So we have a 1-5-1-5-4-5-2 chord progression, only major chords. However, the song is not really happy, so it's perfect proof that major equals happy doesn't always have to be right. This is the chord progression for the intro and the verse, and when we combine this to the verse melody, we see how the second half of the chord progression is actually a reharmonization of the first half to spice things up because it's a rather lengthy verse. In total, we have got 8 bars, and with the melody, it goes like this. Out of the ruins. So this is the main idea. Repeats out from the wreckage. Tiny variation in the melody, and then we've got can't make the same mistakes this time. So we have got a basic idea. This is the 1-5 idea. And the basic melody is ba-da-da-da-da. We introduce a variation. Ba-da-da-da. We take the same melodic motif and this time reharmonize it with the 4. And the C sharp chord is something like a parking spot to get ready for the second verse, for verse B, that is basically the same thing. We are going to look at the chord progression for the transitional bridge next. In the transitional bridge we find E, a very short F sharp, that goes to C sharp minor this time. So in terms of chord functions, we've got 4, 5, and 2 minor. And again, we land on some kind of C sharp chord that is another resting spot before moving to the next section. So that seems to be a motif. Landing on something with C sharp every time that we move to the next section. Together with the melody it's and I wonder when we are ever gonna change. This is the melody note, so we actually sing the 9 on top of the C sharp minor. Living under the fear, still nothing else remains. And then we move to the chorus, which is the second example of Reharm strategies the third time around. Let's look at the chorus. This is the chorus idea. Quick chord changes. F sharp, E with G sharp in bass with its 3 in bass, back to F sharp, E and F sharp. chord changes every quarter note. We are going to look at harmonic rhythm later. For now it's 5, 4, 5, easier. This repeats. Third time around we have. So a similar idea but reharmonized. Instead of 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, we have got this here in bass, which is the D sharp, introducing the D sharp minor 7 chord because the upper shape doesn't change. And this time the bass stays with D sharp and the upper shape changes to a B major chord where D sharp is the 3. So what was F sharp, E with G sharp and bass and F sharp before now becomes D sharp minor, B with D sharp and bass, back to D sharp minor. Second half of the progression is also the 4-5 that we know, okay? So we've got 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. Repeats. Reharm. And land on C sharp minor. Again, the landing spot, the chord that we use to transition from one section to the other. Then we would go to verse number 2, to transitional bridge number 2, where there is a rhythmic novelty that we are going to talk about in a second. Chorus number 2, and then we go to the primary bridge that we are not going to talk about just yet because this is reserved for the very end of this video for this Modulation Superfest that Tina and her songwriting buddies celebrate in the primary bridge. Second big topic, harmonic rhythm and how we introduce it subtly and cleverly without people thinking, oh, did you really just cut away 2 beats of this measure? So very subtle but very powerful. The first instance of a very weird harmonic rhythm is the transitional bridge. Let's look at the transitional bridge once again. This was E, F sharp and C sharp minor. So far so good. However, if we count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have got one bar where there are 2 beats missing, and those 2 beats don't get completed with the C sharp minor chord because the C sharp minor chord has 2 measures in their own right. So what we have here is a shortened measure. The second measure is shortened by 2 beats in order to accelerate subtly, and it makes sense when we look at the melody as well. And I wonder when we are ever gonna change. One could even argue that there is a tiny bit of very clever prosody when Tina sings, and I wonder when we are ever gonna change. And what we have here is a change from common time to 2/4 that goes back to common time in the next measure. Could be intentional, it's genius anyway. The second instance of very powerful harmonic rhythm are of course those quarterly chord changes in the chorus. With the powerful Tina line, "We don't need another hero." What we have here is quarter, 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 and then Bon Jovi. Dotted quarter note and anticipated second downbeat. Quarter, 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 Bon Jovi. And then we have got a rhythmic rest again at the end of the chorus. And number 3 is when we enter transitional bridge number 2 and introduce a new measure at the end when Tina sings "All the Children Say We Don't Need Another Hero." "We Don't Need Another Hero" is of course a build-up, a pick-up. The he from hero is the downbeat of the chorus. So "We Don't Need Another" is all pick-up for the hero. And all the children say in the second transitional bridge is kind of a pickup to the pickup. For that, we need to add an additional measure, and counting gets a bit weird. Living under the field till nothing else remains. All the children say we don't need another hero. What happens here is, if we count this, it's living under the field till nothing else remains. All the children say we don't need another hero. What happens here is that I believe we introduce 2 measures of 3 beats. In sum, everything makes sense. But when we say that all the children say is a phrase in its own right, a 3-beat phrase, and after that we have this we don't need another, then we could argue, especially because all the children say starts on the 3 of this measure. All the children say we don't need another hero. It sounds a bit off, which is why I would argue that we have a 2-beat measure, then a 3-beat measure, and another 3-beat measure. Now, of course, if we add 2 and 3 and 3, the sum is 8, and everything is common time again. But the hits are special, which is why there is something we have to look at and talk about. And this is basically it for the weird harmonic rhythm, which brings us to the big highlight of this video and of the song, which is the freaky modulation fest that is the primary bridge. Let's look at the chords of the primary bridge first. We come out of the chorus. Oh, we wanna slap me on Thunderdome. And then this. What happens is we go from C sharp minor, which was our landing chord all the time, over B major, so far so B major scale, to A major, a totally new chord that also does not belong in the B major scale. After this A major chord, we play an F sharp major chord, something that we do know from B major. Back to A, back to C sharp minor. If we look at this tiny line, at the beginning of the primary bridge, we can see that there are 2 major chords a whole step away from each other. And we know that the only 2 major chords a whole step away from each other in a major key are the 5 and the 4 chord. So if B major, which was the 1 chord before, becomes the 5 chord, we actually do modal interchange. We go from B Ionian to B Mixolydian, where A is the major chord 1 whole step down. But only for that chord, because then if we go to F sharp again, everything is back to B Ionian. Back to Mixolydian. Probably also still part of Mixolydian, where this here is then the 6 minor chord in a way. And the second half of the primary bridge is even weirder. D major, E major with D and bass, D major again, and regular E major. Remember? 2 major chords a whole step away from each other are probably a 4 and the 5 of a mode, of a scale. So suddenly this B that was our tonal center all the time was Ionian, then was Mixolydian for a short time, now becomes Dorian, where we find the D major and the E major chord. And this then builds up to the sax solo that then leads to the last chorus. So from the E that was supposed to be a dominant chord because it was the 5 in B Dorian, we suddenly go to the regular chorus again. Really weird. Let's recap. We start the primary bridge introducing a chord that is not on the B major scale, namely the A major chord, which means that we have done modal interchange from B Ionian to B Mixolydian, but only for a short time, because in the second half of the primary bridge, this B Ionian suddenly becomes B Dorian, where we have got the D major and the E major chord. It blows our mind. It doesn't annoy anybody. So this is super unnecessary, super intelligent songwriting. Something happens in the bridge, it builds up like crazy, and it is a total contrast to the rest of the song. The tools applied are next level, next level, next level songwriting and harmony techniques, which are used to kind of add enormous power to that primary bridge. And I guess this is it. We've talked about the 3 major points that I wanted to bring across. As always, if you like this, make sure to like the video. More importantly, subscribe to the channel to never miss a video. Also hit the bell to get notified. Leave me in the comments which songs you want me to cover and analyze. I guess we've talked song. You can talk about Toy Story 3 now.
We are the children, the last generation.